Just a month ago, Yoon Ji-woo's father, an illicit substance dealer, was placed on the national wanted list. Not just any mobster, he's Seoul's most powerful and ruthless leader. When they finally meet, her uncle mocks her for being a coward and throws her into his gang's brutal training camp. Just a month ago, Yoon Ji-woo's father, a drug dealer, was wanted nationwide. Yet, Ji-woo was the one paying the price for her father's crimes. Her teacher scolds her, and her classmates bully her. The school bullies called her the criminal's daughter and even left a bag of flour on her desk. Unable to take it anymore, Ji-woo grabs the flour and smashes it right into the bully's face. This bold move enrages the bully. She pulls out a weapon and slowly approaches Ji-woo. But before things escalate, they say, like father, like daughter. If Ji-woo was this fierce, her dad's no pushover either. Undercover cops who've been staking out Ji-woo's house are swiftly taken down by her father in just a few moves. Today is Ji-woo's 18th birthday, and her dad risked everything to come home for it. Just as he's about to unlock the door, a mysterious man steps out from the shadows. Sensing danger, her father quickly grips the lock, holding the door shut. Inside, Ji-woo hears the commotion and tries to open the door, but it's stuck. Through the peephole, she witnesses a horrifying scene. Even as he's dying, her father refuses to let her get caught in the crossfire. He breaks the key to keep her safe. Only after the mysterious man leaves does Ji-woo force the door open. But by then, her father's life has already slipped away. On her 18th birthday, Ji-woo never imagined the gift she'd receive would be her father's last breath. A group of men in black arrived at her father's funeral. The man leading them stood silently, staring at her father's photo for a long time before finally reaching into his pocket, pulling out a cigarette, slowly lighting it. He took a deep drag, then solemnly placed it in the incense burner in front of the altar, paying his respects to his fallen brother. Before leaving, he told Ji-woo that he was her uncle and that her father had been his most trusted brother. However, because her father was a gang leader, the police closed the case hastily, even before finding the killer. With no other options, Ji-woo, holding her father's ashes, went to her uncle for help. She begged him to find the mysterious man who had killed her father. Her uncle asked, "And what will you do once I find him?" Ji-woo's response was cold and clear, "I'll kill him with my own hands." Her uncle just smiled. He stood up, walked over to Ji-woo, and placed a weapon in her hand. Then, in an intimidating tone, he told her to imagine he was the killer. Instantly, Ji-woo's hand trembled, and fear overtook her. Her uncle sneered, calling her a coward. "You think you're ready for revenge with this kind of weakness?" He gently took the weapon from her hand and, without warning, slapped her hard across the face, knocking her to the ground. Ji-woo, realizing her uncle wouldn't help, left the room in tears. Back at home, staring at the broken key her father had left behind, Ji-woo resolved to find the killer on her own. She ventured into dangerous alleys, offering a 5 million won reward for any information. One day, her uncle passed by and saw her bounty posted on the streets. Soon after, Ji-woo received a call. Someone claimed to know who the murderer was. She rushed to the meeting spot with the cash in hand, only to find herself facing 3 thugs. They had no information, only greed, and they quickly trapped her in a narrow alley. Not only did they steal her reward money, but they also began to beat her. During the fight, Ji-woo's mask fell off, revealing her face. The thugs laughed, realizing she was just a girl. She tried to fight back, but there was no way she could take on all 3. One of the thugs, sleazy and cruel, told his men not to hurt her face. He planned to sell her for a good price. They tied her hands and threw her into the trunk of a car. But suddenly, outside, Ji-woo heard loud crashes followed by the men's screams of pain. She quickly fumbled for the small knife in her pocket, cutting the ropes binding her hands. Just as she freed herself, the trunk opened. Standing there was her uncle, the gang leader who had come to save her after all. Choi Moo-jin told Ji-woo to stay put unless she wanted to end up dead in the streets. His words lit a fire inside her.
뭐 어떻게 아무 일도 없던 것처럼 사는데요? 오빠 나 때문에 죽었는데.
사람을 죽일 수 있는 사람이 돼야지.
Sensing her determination, Choi Moo-jin was impressed. He knew that if Ji-woo wanted to avenge her father, she had to become stronger, determined to help her. Choi Moo-jin brought Ji-woo to his gang's brutal training camp, a place filled with ruthless men, tough, dangerous, and all muscle. Without saying much, he left her there and walked away. The gang members gave Ji-woo a dismissive glance. One of them, Do Gang Jae, stepped forward and showed her to a room. He explained the harsh reality. Here, strength was everything, and the most brutal ruled. If Ji-woo wanted to leave alive, she'd have to defeat every man in the camp, but being small and untrained, Ji-woo wasn't given a chance to fight or learn. Instead, she was assigned to cleaning duties. Yet, she endured the constant taunts and jeers, determined to get stronger. One day, Ji-woo approached a punching bag, eager to begin her training, but before she could start, a man nearby took over, leaving her no choice but to move to another bag. She was throwing punches during her training when a massive guy suddenly kicked the punching bag with full force, sending it crashing into Ji-woo. The curly-haired thug attacked her from behind, mocking and taunting her with cruel laughter. Ji-woo, refusing to back down, struck him square in the face. Enraged, the thug retaliated with a punch that knocked Ji-woo to the floor. The others quickly pulled him away, but it was clear she'd made an enemy. Ji-woo had no choice but to wait until everyone was resting before she could secretly train on her own. She wanted nothing more than to grow strong, and her perseverance did not go unnoticed by Choi Moo-jin. Watching her struggle, Choi Moo-jin decided to give Ji-woo some crucial advice. When you face someone 100 times stronger, don't think about how to defeat them, think about how to kill them. That's the mindset that makes you invincible. He explained that sheer strength alone wouldn't be enough to beat a man. Instead, Ji-woo needed to target the weak spots, exploiting the human body's vulnerabilities to sap her opponent's power. With that, Ji-woo finally understood, and Choi Moo-jin made a decision. He would personally train her. The annual selection had begun, and Ji-woo was among the participants. She was about to face off in a brutal death match against 100 fierce men. With the signal given, chaos erupted as everyone fought desperately for survival. The rules were simple: only the last person standing would be the winner, earning the right to become an official member of the gang and leave the training camp. The gang leader watched the carnage with excitement, eager to see who would prevail. Before long, most of the fighters were knocked out cold. Do Gang-jae emerged victorious, winning the 10 million won prize and becoming a full member of the gang. As the crowd cheered and applauded his victory, the leader interrupted, saying, "It seems there's still one left." Ji-woo, the only woman in the arena, had also survived. Now, she and Do Gang-jae were the final opponents. Without a hint of mercy, Do Gang-jae launched a vicious attack on Ji-woo, aiming for her vital points with every strike. The battle was intense, and the leader grew anxious, standing up as the fight unfolded. Just when it seemed Ji-woo couldn't hold on any longer, she dodged a fatal blow with a quick roll and countered with a powerful shoulder throw, slamming Do Gang-jae hard to the ground. She followed it up with a crushing elbow strike, knocking him unconscious. The gang leader raised Ji-woo's hand, declaring her the winner. However, Do Gang-jae wasn't one to let go of a grudge. He sought out the curly-haired thug who had always harbored ill intentions toward Ji-woo. Do Gang-jae told him that he had spiked Ji-woo's drink. Tempted by the opportunity, the thug followed Do Gang-jae to Ji-woo's room. By the time they arrived, Ji-woo had already fallen unconscious from the drugged water. As the curly-haired thug prepared to take his revenge, Ji-woo, clinging to the last thread of consciousness, summoned all her strength and fought back fiercely. In the struggle, her father's ashes were knocked over, scattering on the floor. Seeing Do Gang-jae's disgusting smirk, Ji-woo grabbed a broken shard from the ground. At that moment, the curly-haired thug tried to kick her from the side, but the shard struck his most vulnerable spot, leaving him writhing on the floor in agony. Ji-woo, battered and barely able to stand, managed to stumble out of the room. Do Gang-jae, enraged, grabbed a hammer from the wall and chased after her. Just when things seemed dire, the gang leader appeared. Facing his boss, Do Gang-jae remained defiant, confident that his talents would be valued too highly for the leader to punish him over a woman. But the leader, who despised being threatened especially when it came to his niece, showed no mercy. With a swift, cold-blooded strike, the leader ended Do Gang-jae's ambitions, crippling him for good. After everything settled down, Ji-woo's uncle took her to a quiet barbecue joint. He pulled out a handgun and told her, "This is the weapon that killed your father." Through his investigation, he had uncovered that the killer was a police officer. To avenge her father, Ji-woo would need to change her name, assume a new identity, and go undercover in the police force. Meanwhile, the gang officially announced that Ji-woo had been killed by Do Gang-jae. For the next 2 years, Ji-woo worked relentlessly, eventually passing the police academy and becoming an outstanding officer. During one mission, she charged into a hideout alone, shouting, "Freeze! I'm a cop!" In doing so, she accidentally ruined Jeon Pil-do's long-term undercover operation. Jeon Pil-do had spent 6 months infiltrating a contraband gang, and this unexpected encounter sowed deep hatred between the two. Behind the scenes, Ji-woo was also helping her gang leader uncle expand his influence. As they steadily took over rival gangs, her exceptional performance at work soon earned her a promotion to the narcotics division. On her first day with the new unit, Ji-woo encountered Chief Cha, the very same man she had seen on the day her father was murdered. Pretending to be unfazed, she chose to bide her time, gathering evidence to prove his guilt. That night, Ji-woo secretly met with her uncle. She informed him that she had made it into the narcotics department, bringing her one step closer to finding the killer. Her uncle was pleased and reassured her that he would always have her back. Ji-woo's father had once saved his life by taking a knife for him, and now, he promised to do whatever it took to help her seek revenge. Later, Ji-woo was paired with Jeon Pil-do for a mission. Still bitter from their previous encounter, Jeon Pil-do purposely made things difficult for her, sending her in alone to infiltrate an enemy hideout. Despite the danger, Ji-woo fearlessly fought her way through, taking on an entire gang by herself and making it to the enemy leader's secret base. Meanwhile, as time passed with no word from Ji-woo, Jeon Pil-do realized he had made a mistake by sending her in alone. Feeling guilty, he rushed inside to check on her. What he found shocked him. Ji-woo had single-handedly taken down the entire gang. While interrogating a suspect, the police learned that a new type of contraband had surfaced on the market. However, when asked who was behind it, the dealer refused to say a word. However, when asked who was behind it, the man remained silent. Not long after, the team was assigned a new mission. To maintain secrecy, everyone was required to surrender their phones before the operation. Along the way, Ji-woo tried to find an opportunity to warn Choi Moo-jin, but no chance presented itself. During the raid, Jeon Pil-do quickly located Choi Moo-jin. Just as the mission seemed to be on the verge of success, a mysterious figure fired a shot, disabling the room's electrical system. In the ensuing chaos, Choi Moo-jin ignited a fire to create a distraction. At that moment, Ji-woo entered the room, gun in hand. Under Choi Moo-jin's intense gaze, Ji-woo turned her weapon towards Jeon Pil-do. Fortunately, Choi Moo-jin managed to escape, allowing Ji-woo to slowly lower her gun before any harm was done. Since the operation's body cameras were destroyed, there was no concrete evidence to arrest Choi Moo-jin. After the raid, the police recovered the bullet that had disrupted the electrical system and, shockingly, found the same gun that had been used to kill Ji-woo's father. Ji-woo seized the opportunity to call Chief Cha over, observing his strange reaction when confronted with the weapon. Meanwhile, Choi Moo-jin was furious with Ji-woo for not warning him ahead of time and started to suspect she had betrayed him, refusing to answer her calls. Chief Cha also grew suspicious, believing that there was a mole within the team. He ordered everyone to hand over their service weapons for inspection, checking each one's bullets meticulously, but found no clues. Ji-woo later visited Chief Cha's office, where she discovered that this operation had been in the works for 10 years. Choi Moo-jin had been involved in numerous criminal cases, but each time, he slipped through the cracks due to insufficient evidence. Her father's murder case was one of them, with the killer still at large. Afterward, Ji-woo covertly fed detailed information about the police's surveillance at the hotel back to Choi Moo-jin, further fueling Chief Cha's suspicions. He began focusing his attention on Ji-woo, convinced that since her arrival, there had been several leaks during their operations. Meanwhile, a group of masked men armed with weapons stormed Choi Moo-jin's gang training camp, attacking without hesitation. It was revealed that this was the work of Do Gang-jae, who had returned for revenge. 4 years ago, Ji-woo had defeated him at the training camp, and after being scarred and cast out by Choi Moo-jin, Do Gang-jae had nursed a deep grudge. Now, he was back, driven by vengeance. The sudden attack caught the gang completely off guard, and the members were overwhelmed. In a short time, bodies piled up, and many were killed or injured. Even the second-in-command was captured by Do Gang-jae. Using the same brutal tactics Choi Moo-jin had once used on him, Do Gang-jae crippled the second-in-command, destroying one of his arms. By the time the police arrived, Do Gang-jae had already fled, leaving behind a chilling message on the wall: "I'm back." Ji-woo, however, was only concerned about Choi Moo-jin's safety. It wasn't long before Choi Moo-jin heard about the attack, and he vowed to make Do Gang-jae pay with blood. Meanwhile, Chief Cha, intent on flushing out the mole within the police department, made a public statement in front of his team, announcing that he was about to meet with the undercover agent planted near Choi Moo-jin. Ji-woo, sensing an opportunity, disguised herself and followed him. Chief Cha stood on the street corner holding a newspaper. Soon, a car approached slowly and stopped in front of him. Ji-woo, positioning herself to get a better view of the undercover agent's face, was suddenly confronted by Jeon Pil-do, who had been waiting for her. The two engaged in a fierce struggle, with Jeon Pil-do determined to unmask Ji-woo and reveal the mole within the department. Despite the intense fight, Ji-woo managed to escape. Still not giving up, Ji-woo took a huge risk and rode her motorcycle closer to the meeting point. As she passed by, she recognized the undercover agent. It was the second-in-command. She quickly reported this to Choi Moo-jin. When the second-in-command returned to the gang, Choi Moo-jin looked at the man who had once been his most trusted brother but chose not to expose him right away. Instead, a new plan was forming in Choi Moo-jin's mind. The next day at work, the analysis of the gun used to kill Ji-woo's father came in, and it was confirmed to be a police-issued weapon. Combined with the fact that Chief Cha was present the night of her father's murder, Ji-woo became certain that the killer was none other than Chief Cha. At the same time, Chief Cha devised a plan to use a substance distributor as bait to lure Choi Moo-jin in. Ji-woo and Pil-do followed a man to an abandoned scrapyard, only to realize too late that it was Do Kang-jae's trap. At the same time, Choi Moo-jin, alone, also found himself ambushed. Do Kang-jae had stationed his man at Choi Moo-jin's favorite restaurant. However, the ever-cunning Choi Moo-jin struck first, taking out his attackers with ease. They were no match for him. Back at the scrapyard, Ji-woo and Jeon Pil-do were quickly surrounded by Do Kang-jae's thugs. The two fought fiercely, but during the chaos, Jeon Pil-do accidentally fell from a high platform, and Ji-woo was captured. Meanwhile, Choi Moo-jin was attacked from behind by the curly-haired thug, who stabbed him. But even with the wound, Choi Moo-jin remained ruthless, more concerned with finding out Do Kang-jae's whereabouts than with his injury. Ji-woo, now in Do Kang-jae's hands, faced brutal torture. He stabbed her leg and, once she was down, viciously stomped on her wound, relishing in her pain. As Choi Moo-jin answered a call from the curly-haired thug, he heard Do Kang-jae's voice on the other end. The plan may have failed, but Do Kang-jae wasn't fazed. He taunted Choi Moo-jin, sending him a photo of Ji-woo and threatening to kill her if Choi Moo-jin didn't arrive in time. Despite his own injuries, Choi Moo-jin immediately got into his car and sped to the location. Meanwhile, Do Kang-jae, still unsatisfied with Ji-woo's suffering, threw both her and Jeon Pil-do into a car, binding their hands tightly. He then used an excavator to lower the car into a hydraulic crusher. As the glass shattered and the car was slowly crushed, Jeon Pil-do managed to free Ji-woo from her restraints. He urged her to escape without him, saying if one of them could make it, it would be enough. Just as the car was about to be completely crushed, a vehicle suddenly rammed into the hydraulic machine, short-circuiting the power. Ji-woo and Jeon Pil-do were saved in the nick of time. It was Choi Moo-jin who had arrived just in time. Choi Moo-jin's gaze lingered on Ji-woo with a hint of affection, but before they could exchange words, the police arrived on the scene. Choi Moo-jin had no choice but to leave quickly. Ji-woo then rushed back to rescue Jeon Pil-do, who had been trapped in the car. Furious, Choi Moo-jin continued his relentless pursuit of Do Kang-jae, while the police also searched the city for him. Do Kang-jae, now on the run and desperate, had to stay in hiding. After surviving this near-death experience, Ji-woo and Jeon Pil-do began to develop feelings for each other, a bond that was unknowingly captured on camera by the second-in-command, who had been secretly observing them. He showed the photos to Choi Moo-jin, and after seeing them, Choi Moo-jin, driven by jealousy, decided to send Ji-woo abroad. However, when Ji-woo received the call, she refused to follow his orders and hung up on him. The next day at work, an unexpected event occurred. Ji-woo ran into a familiar face, the officer who had handled her father's case. The officer greeted her warmly, which left Ji-woo feeling alarmed, wondering if her cover as a gang member had been blown. But just as she feared the worst, the officer cleverly shifted the conversation, protecting her secret. Ji-woo began to grow curious about his motives and later discovered that the officer was also working for Choi, profiting from the gang's deals. He didn't expose Ji-woo, not to avoid unnecessary trouble, but to protect his own interests. However, he demanded that Choi supply more of the new contraband in exchange for keeping Ji-woo's identity a secret. Choi Moo-jin agreed, but he had other plans. Meanwhile, Ji-woo wasn't idle. She confronted the curly-haired thug, who reluctantly revealed that Do Kang-jae was planning to flee the country. Ji-woo immediately relayed this information to Choi Moo-jin. At the same time, Chief Cha received a call from Do Kang-jae, but instead of surrendering, Do Kang-jae proposed a deal. He would help the police capture Choi Moo-jin in exchange for safe passage out of the country. With this, a three-way showdown was set in motion. Do Kang-jae lured Choi Moo-jin to the docks, where Chief Cha and his officers lay in wait to ambush Choi Moo-jin. Do Kang-jae showed no honor, sending his men to the front lines, while Choi Moo-jin, in his usual fearless style, led the charge, cutting down his opponents with ruthless efficiency. In no time, Choi Moo-jin made his way to Do Kang-jae, Do Gang-jae foolishly confronted Choi Moo-jin alone, only to be overpowered as Choi Moo-jin grabbed him by the head and pummeled him to the ground. Desperate, Do Gang-jae crawled away, but Choi Moo-jin pursued. The police then began their operation to capture Choi Moo-jin. Do Gang-jae led Choi Moo-jin to an overpass and, taking advantage of a blind spot, managed to stab him. Instead of weakening him, the pain only seemed to fuel Choi Moo-jin's aggression, terrifying Do Gang-jae even more. Panicking, Do Gang-jae tried to flee again, but he was no match for Choi Moo-jin. In the end, Do Gang-jae, realizing his defeat, dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. Sensing Choi Moo-jin's brief moment of hesitation, Do Gang-jae pulled a hidden knife from his shoe and stabbed Choi Moo-jin several times, thinking he had won. But just as he thought victory was his, Ji-woo arrived in time, shooting Do Gang-jae and saving Choi Moo-jin. Ji-woo urged Choi Moo-jin to escape quickly. Furious, Do Gang-jae taunted Ji-woo, calling her a fool for letting Choi Moo-jin go, claiming she didn't know the full truth. At that moment, Jeon Pil-do arrived on the scene. Sensing his last chance, Do Gang-jae threatened to reveal Ji-woo's true identity to Jeon Pil-do. He then threw down his weapon and pretended to surrender, stating that he was ready to confess everything. Jeon Pil-do tried to calm Ji-woo, urging her to put down her gun, but before she could react, the situation took another turn. Meanwhile, a gravely injured Choi Moo-jin had fled to a remote mountain temple, where he received aid from a monk. Unbeknownst to him, Ji-woo had received a letter from Do Gang-jae before his death. The letter contained a shocking photo of her father, dressed as a police officer. Stunned, Ji-woo questioned everything she knew. She recalled Chief Cha's cryptic remarks and began to wonder if her father had been an undercover cop assigned to infiltrate Choi Moo-jin's gang. Determined to uncover the truth, Ji-woo tracked down Choi Moo-jin at the temple. Confronting him, she demanded answers about her father's real identity. Choi Moo-jin didn't deny it. He revealed that Ji-woo's father had indeed been planted by Chief Cha to bring down the gang. However, her father had eventually betrayed the police and sided with the gang, leading to his death at the hands of Chief Cha. Choi Moo-jin, using this revelation, manipulated Ji-woo further, urging her to seek revenge on Chief Cha. But Ji-woo wasn't fully convinced, sensing there was more to the story. Realizing her growing doubts, Choi Moo-jin, worried that Ji-woo might uncover the full truth, secretly ordered his second-in-command to assassinate Chief Cha. Jeon Pil-do escorted a drunken Chief Cha back home, wanting to stay and look after him, but Chief Cha stubbornly refused, so Jeon Pil-do had no choice but to leave. As Chief Cha lay on the sofa, he sensed something was wrong. Before he could draw his weapon, the second-in-command lunged at him, stabbing him repeatedly. The two fought fiercely, with Chief Cha managing to severely wound his attacker, forcing the second-in-command to stumble out of the room, bleeding heavily. Moments later, Ji-woo arrived and noticed blood smeared on the door handle. She cautiously drew her weapon and slowly entered Chief Cha's apartment, but as soon as she reached the living room, she was shot. Hearing the gunshot, Jeon Pil-do, who hadn't gone far, rushed back. Barely clinging to life, Chief Cha mistakenly believed Ji-woo had come to finish him off. But Ji-woo only wanted to know one thing. Did he kill her father?
5년 전 오늘 우리 아빠한테 무슨 짓을 했는지 말해.
Realizing that Ji-woo was the daughter of the man he had once known, Chief Cha handed her a sealed envelope. At that moment, Jeon Pil-do arrived, and Ji-woo quickly jumped out of the window, escaping to her car. In the car, she opened the envelope. Inside, she discovered the truth: her father had been an undercover cop working alongside Choi Moo-jin. Choi Moo-jin had once been her father's close friend, but during a confrontation with a gang member, Choi Moo-jin had accidentally discovered a bug hidden inside the lighter her father had gifted him. Feeling betrayed, Choi Moo-jin decided to kill him. Along with the envelope was a letter from her father, expressing his deep love for Ji-woo and the pain he had endured as an undercover agent. Heartbroken by the truth, Ji-woo was devastated that she had unknowingly trusted and defended her father's killer, Choi Moo-jin, multiple times. Consumed with regret, Ji-woo sat by the roadside, repeatedly hitting herself, overwhelmed by her emotions. Worried that Ji-woo might seek revenge, the second-in-command took matters into his own hands and kidnapped her. However, Ji-woo, determined and far more dangerous than expected, fought back fiercely, easily taking down dozens of gang members in seconds. Seeing this, the second-in-command decided to face Ji-woo himself. He taunted her, saying, "Feels good being a pawn of your father's killer." doesn't it? The two engaged in a deadly fight, but the second-in-command stood no chance. Ji-woo knocked him out in less than 10 seconds. Meanwhile, the police received a tip from a doctor who had treated a severely injured man at a temple someone stabbed multiple times. Realizing it was Choi Moo-jin, the police rushed to the temple to arrest him. But before they could reach him, Choi Moo-jin calmly walked into the police station. What he hadn't expected was for Ji-woo, the police officer he had trained as an undercover agent, to testify against him. Ji-woo warned Choi Moo-jin not to expect any rescue from his moles and the police, then walked out of the interrogation room. She then headed to the evidence room and retrieved proof of Choi Moo-jin's involvement in a murder. At the same time, Jeon Pil-do found surveillance footage from the night of Chief Cha's murder. The footage clearly identified Ji-woo as the killer. He immediately issued a broadcast, ordering her to be stopped before she could leave the station. Meanwhile, Ji-woo broke her SIM card, tossed it aside, and slipped out through the back exit, evading the officers trying to apprehend her. She coolly hopped on her motorcycle and sped away, passing Jeon Pil-do as he rushed out to find her. Choi Moo-jin, due to a lack of solid evidence, was released without charges. As he walked out of the station, he shot a smug, taunting look at Jeon Pil-do, as if to say everything was still under his control. Later, he confided in his assistant that Choi Moo-jin had come to the police station solely to test Ji-woo's loyalty. It became clear that Choi Moo-jin had developed deep feelings for Ji-woo. Meanwhile, Ji-woo went to the riverside and threw the evidence of Choi Moo-jin's crimes into the river. She knew that a single murder weapon wouldn't be enough to convict him. Ji-woo had decided to take matters into her own hands and seek revenge her way. Back at the gang's headquarters, Choi Moo-jin learned that his second-in-command had been killed, with the knife used to kill him being the very one Choi Moo-jin had once gifted to Ji-woo. Enraged, Choi Moo-jin vowed to make Ji-woo pay with blood. Though gravely injured, Chief Cha survived and woke up in the hospital. His first act was to contact Jeon Pil-do, telling him that Ji-woo wasn't the real killer. Realizing he had wronged her, Jeon Pil-do set out to find Ji-woo. He caught up with her in an underground parking lot and, determined to stop her from walking into her own death, handcuffed their wrists together. Suddenly, a group of gang members arrived, seeking revenge for the second-in-command's death. But they were no match for Ji-woo and Jeon Pil-do, who quickly defeated them. Afterward, Jeon Pil-do took the wounded Ji-woo to a secret warehouse, where he tenderly treated her injuries. He reassured her that she didn't have to face everything alone, that he could be the person she could rely on. As the two grew closer, their feelings for each other deepened. We'll skip the next 10 seconds. Choi Moo-jin's assistant informed him that Ji-woo and Jeon Pil-do had spent the night together in the warehouse. Overcome with rage, Choi Moo-jin lost control, grabbing a gun and first pointing it at himself, then at his assistant, feeling as though the entire world was betraying him. Meanwhile, after a night of healing and emotional support, Ji-woo had found something she cared about again: Jeon Pil-do. She decided to let go of her thirst for revenge and agreed to turn herself in at the police station alongside Jeon Pil-do. But before they could leave, tragedy struck. Ji-woo watched in horror as Jeon Pil-do was killed before her eyes. Her mind went blank as the love of her life lay dead in front of her. Ji-woo picked up Jeon Pil-do's gun, quietly slipped away from the crowd, and made up her mind to avenge the two men she loved most. Alone, she marched into Choi Moo-jin's company. Every move she made was being watched by Choi Moo-jin. In the elevator, Ji-woo emptied her gun, leaving only a single bullet for Choi Moo-jin. As soon as she stepped out, she encountered a formidable opponent. Out of bullets, Ji-woo had no choice but to fight, and after a fierce struggle, she finally reached Choi Moo-jin. Choi Moo-jin, ready to face his fate, offered Ji-woo a chance to kill him. He dropped his weapon, and Ji-woo, without hesitation, attacked. Despite her efforts, Choi Moo-jin, her former mentor, was too strong, but Ji-woo refused to give up. As Choi Moo-jin prepared to finish her off, Ji-woo found an opening and critically wounded him. Picking up Ji-woo's gun, Choi Moo-jin knew there were no bullets left, but he pretended to aim and fire at her. In the end, Ji-woo took his life with a single stab. And with that, the story came to its tragic conclusion.